Well, hello out there, and thank you for joining us tonight on Let's Stay Together Talk. We are so glad that you came back another week on the McCain train. Why? Because to see God's glory, we must share our backstories. Now, tonight, our topic on the McCain train is all about dysfunctional families, letting go and letting God. Now, I got to say this before we go any further. Our families often repeat destructive patterns for generations, draining the fun out of dysfunctional. God promises that if you put your trust in Him, you have real hope for a transformed life, and God will walk with you every step of the way. Now, joining us on the next segment, on the next stop segment of the missing child is none other than Miss Rogers. Miss Marcella Rogers, who is a licensed clinical practitioner. I hope you are on the line, Marcella.
Hi, yes, I am.
Hey, how you doing? And welcome back on the train, lady.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Hey, how you doing there, Marcella?
I'm good. How are you?
All right. So we're talking about dysfunctional families and dysfunctions in the family. We're talking about now what's called the missing child, the silent child.
The missing child, the lost children. We're going to just break that down, how they get lost during the whole thing of having dysfunction in the family.
The whole thing. So, Marcella, talk to me a little bit about, dysfunction within a family and how it can, hurt not only the family, but the child that's within that family.
Well, dysfunction it has many faces. So, you can have abuse that's dysfunctional. You can have alcoholism. You can have substance abuse. You can have a parent that's depressed or mental illness. So it just depends on how you define dysfunction and what's the dysfunction that's actually happening in the house. But it affects the family in all sorts of ways. You have the parent, the husband that might be emotionally absent, and so then the wife is the one that's trying to get the attention from the husband, which leads her not to pay attention to the child, and the husband's already not paying attention to the child because he's already not present. So that's an effect, where the child starts feeling invisible. And then you also have if a parent is abusing substances or alcoholism, and then again, the parent is not present like the person would be normally in their right state of mind. So that affects the family in so different ways of the child is taking on different roles or maybe being parentified where they're taking on the role as being the parent and taking care of the parent versus the parent taking care of them or other siblings in the family. So it just depends on if the child is just feeling so much stress, then the child becomes trying to be quiet and silent, that trying to stay out of the dysfunction that's going on, always want to be out of the house, isolated, withdrawn. So many ways that the child can be affected as well as the family, and it depends on the dynamics that's going on inside the family.
Now, there was an old song that was sung by the Temptations that was called Smiling Faces. And the song went, smiling faces sometimes pretend to be your friend. Smiling faces show no traces of the evil that lurks within. That was one of the songs that you sang. The Temptations sung that. And so, Marcella, that evil that lurks within, that silent child or that child that feels, like they've been under so much stress, what can we say about that child and how maybe that child should be helped or what we can do to maybe help that child? Because there may be someone listening right now that's going through that process and they're thinking some evil or some malicious thoughts. How do we help them in that situation?
Well, the dysfunction can affect the child in two different ways. So we're talking about a child that's stressed. So they might be feeling depressed. You might notice that they're withdrawn. You might notice that they're isolated. They may stay in their room all the time. They might not socialize with others. They're, trying to stay out of the house. Or they might end up being very, trying to be perfect. A lot of stress where they're trying to do everything correct. Just trying to get some sort of attention from the family. And then you also have a third one that might get into trouble where they're angry or they're having thoughts of hurting themselves or others or they're having issues at school. So it just depends on how the child is acting out. But one thing that you can definitely do is try to be a listening ear. Talk to the person, talk to the kid, try to connect. Because we all as human beings want to connect. That's a fundamental need that we all have, is to connect with others. And if you're in a household where the love is not displayed or is not stated or is not shown, then you have a kid that doesn't know how to, love or know how to connect or know how to express their needs because their needs hasn't been heard or been attended to. So then you also are encouraging the kid to try to talk more, to express themselves, to say, hey, I do care, you do matter. And by doing that, it's just spending time with that person or telling them it's a safe place to share their thoughts. So one thing is connecting with the kid. The second one is letting them know it's okay to express their needs, their feelings, or being able to even identify what those feelings are. You know, feeling sadness, even that anger, that rage, or even talking about those thoughts that they may be having that's harmful or hurtful to someone else. Because underneath that is that anger. What is the anger about? And that's pain and hurt. And the kid is feeling that. So it's telling them that it's okay to feel that, but let's teach you other ways to express it.
Well, Marcella, what are some of the after effects that a child going from a child to an adult will experience living in a dysfunctional household?
Well, you know, you definitely, some of it, according to different research, you can go from being such a loner that you don't trust people, so then you go into relationships that can mimic that dysfunction. So instead of you saying, okay, I'm not going to ever date someone like that or marry that person, my dad or my mom, you end up dating that exact person or even picking up those learned behaviors where you're doing the drinking or you're doing the abuse or whatever the case may be. Be affected by just not being connected with others, being disconnected, you know, being evasive or trying to just stay by yourself and not allowing yourself to love others or know how to be loved and to love other people in return. So you have distant relationships where, you know, no one needs are being met or you're meeting other people that's like you, that you're hurting each other. So it varies on how it's affected, but you definitely will have some blueprints of your relationship based on your relationship with your family, your caregivers. So they will play a huge role in how you relate to others, how you have relationships that's either healthy or unhealthy. And if you're not able to verbalize what you need and what you need to connect or what you need to love or what your needs are, being able to verbalize that, then you'll have relationships that will reflect that. You know, not being able to know your worth in that relationship, not being able to be more forthcoming of what you need or what you like, because you never had the opportunity to express that. And I call those the gray people that say, I don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't, you know, like they never have an answer what is important to them because when they were a kid, they didn't have the opportunity to express it. Someone actually heard them and validate that experience or who they are as a person. So you have gray people that just go along with whatever and put other people's interests and likes and what they want before theirs.
She's breaking this stuff down into layers.
So, you know, Marcella, when we were talking earlier, I was telling them that every family or every person has went through some dysfunctional scenarios within a family unit, but when it becomes a dysfunctional family, it's going out of the norm, and it causes a negativity that can go from generations to generations. But somehow, some of us don't even know that we're in a dysfunctional family. Can you explain, you know, just a little as what is a dysfunctional family and how someone may be able to understand that that family that they're in is dysfunctional and how they can get out of being that kind of dysfunctional family that will hurt someone from generations to generations?
Yeah, that's excellent. You know, a lot of times we're not able to identify as something dysfunctional if that becomes your norm, is learned behavior, right? But when you're exposed to other things and other ways of that doesn't supposed to happen. Because if I'm a kid that was raised in an abusive, you know, household, but when I start going around other kids and I'm going to their house and I see that their dad and I call their mom out of their names or getting slapped around, it's like, oh. So one thing about it is being able to be open to other way of living. So one way that you can kind of know that you're in a dysfunctional situation is seeing that the condition that you're living is interfering with a healthy family functioning. You know, are there periods and times where it become extremely stressful circumstances and how people deal with that? Because normal is based upon all of our subjectivity. What I consider to be normal will be different than what you consider to be normal, Reverend, as well as Brother. So it just depends. So then we start looking at how is this affecting me? How is this now allowing me to live a life that's fulfilling? Or, you know, if I'm in an abusive situation, but no one ever told me this is not supposed to happen, how would I be able to identify that? One, does it hurt? Is it hindering my level of living? Is it changing the way I view myself? Am I having thoughts of killing myself? Am I having thoughts of not wanting to get out of bed? Am I knowing that looking on television, that woman doesn't look like me? When I go to work, that boy or school, they look different than I do. Then you start recognizing that maybe what I'm in is not right because I am not able to live my fullest potential when I'm told I'm no good or I'm not ever going to be anything. So it's how do I even identify that by one, being observant of what's going on in the setting, and also how is it affecting me? How is it messing with my sense of self and who I am as a self-concept? Because, again, we're talking about our own mirrors, but a lot of times if we don't put a mirror in front of our face, we can't see anything but what we know. So it's just being exposed to different levels of it. But one way of knowing that is knowing that all healthy families are not perfect. We all have we all have hurt and anger and pain in relationships, but it tends to become when it becomes more extreme, where people are being hurt, when people are starting to not have boundaries, when there's no emotional or the balance comes in part, when there's physical or sexual abuse, or when someone is not present, being neglected without food or, things of that nature, because we all experience life in different ways, but it's the extreme of how it affects us. It's the extreme of how it determines how we are able to function or not. So it's hard to just pinpoint what is dysfunction, but the definition is just what it interferes with healthy family functioning. Is how it's impaired that situation, or how the family able to function around a crisis. Unfortunately, it tends to be chronic, and the children are constantly, needs are not being met, and there's negative patterns of parental behavior that dominate the child's life. So there's things that happen that start making them more dysfunctional, where you can start seeing. Because again, if you've never been exposed to anything different, how can I call your situation dysfunction if this is all that I know? But what you know doesn't mean that's right. It's just being exposed to something different to know that, and that's being more self-aware, going within and seeing what's going on.
Marcella, I'm going to give you did a great segue of what I'm about to talk about, because growing up, I had a good friend who always thought that my family was dysfunctional as far as me living in a household with my mother and father. She was raised in a household by her mom, so a single parent. And when her mom got married, I remember her telling me, I'm living in a dysfunctional household, because it changed the routine of what she was used to doing. And she didn't like that. And this girl complained about everything. And I'm looking at it like, but you have a father in the household. But, it was more layers to that as well. But her thing was more so on a selfish, I can't walk around the house, comfortable. It's just me and my mom. So, two females in the house, comfortable and everything. Now we have rules and structure. And so, like you said, what might be normal for some might not be normal for others. So hers was the reverse effect of all of this. I used to tell her, he doesn't drink, he don't smoke, he don't hit you, he ain't doing anything wrong. She just didn't like the fact that person was in that household, and it made it dysfunctional for her. And that was just so strange to me. But the way you explain it, it makes sense.
And, a lot of times people will look at, like you said, Marcella, it depends on what's dysfunctional to you. To that young lady, having that one person raising them was a normal. It was the normalcy. It was that worked for them. And now we've got somebody else coming in. They look at that as being dysfunctional, and that's not necessarily dysfunctional. It's just changing the pattern of a relationship. And so we do sometimes we look at something as dysfunctional because it's changed the pattern of how we live. But as dysfunction person is in a relationship like that, that causes a person to be negative or pessimistic or change their whole way of thinking about life. And so in a situation where I'm sitting there where someone comes into my family like that and I think is dysfunctional, how do you help them with that? And I want you to answer the question for me also, Marcella. If I've accepted that I am in a dysfunctional family, how can you help?
Okay, so the first question, as far as being able to identify or change our mindset or perception about something that we may consider to be dysfunctional, but in all the societal way is not, right? So one thing about that, I challenge all of my clients or people I know in general is what's your premise? Where are you coming from when you are looking at the world that you're seeing it through? You're seeing it through your own eyes. So it's from learned behavior. It's from the way you were raised. It's from, your upbringing. It's from your beliefs. It's from the culture in which we live in. So one way of doing that is being more open to something that's different, like you said, to change. But change is scary to a lot of people because it elicits stress. It elicits something different. Even though you can be in an physical abusive relationship, for that woman or man, that could become their norm because at least they know what to expect. Because I know this dysfunction. But some people can, live off of that and be okay, but they tell themselves that they're okay because they're scared of finding something out that's outside of that norm. So it's about creating a new norm and being open to something that's uncomfortable and not knowing the unknown, like being okay with the unknown, being okay with not being everyone in every situation, but only controlling yourself. So it's one tapping into saying it is okay to not know. It is okay to be unknown. It's okay to look at life differently. And it's okay to be scared. It's okay to have all these different emotions that we have that we're driven by. A lot of times we're driven by fear. Most people don't like change because they're afraid of what the unknown is or what's going to happen and not knowing that. So I'm afraid of success. I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid. So we're driven by that fear. But once we address that fear and those, different type of issues that create us to have this negativity or a pessimistic attitude, it will help us to be more open to saying, I'll try that. Just like food. We try different food. Some people do not because, again, they're afraid of something tasting nasty or just the difference of it. But when you're open and saying, okay, I want to have a different perception of life, but looking at who I am and what's my sense of self and my concept of who do I represent, and I want to be able to function and adjust to different type of situations. So I would just encourage that person to be more open-minded. Just because your situation was like that, that doesn't mean that someone else is wrong. It doesn't mean that your situation is right. It's we all have life, and we're all going to live it differently. And it's being more open-minded to being different. And so the second question of a person that's in a dysfunctional situation, as far as abuse period is dysfunctional, if it's mental, physical, sexual, neglect, all of that, it's dysfunctional. Being brought up in a household with alcoholism or substance abuse, or someone that's dependent on something other than, something positive, that's dysfunctional because somewhere in the norm is not going to be taken care of. Somebody's needs are not going to be met. So with that situation, I would encourage that person to, one, identify that right. Because we all have intuition. We all have something within ourselves that makes us uncomfortable. But we ignore that a lot of times. A lot of times we ignore our red flags or our different type of abilities that we have to say, hey, my alarm system is going on. That fight or flight that goes off inside of us. So one is acknowledging something is not right. Two is then now that I know something is not right, let me identify what that is. And then once you identify it, if it's something like abuse, where you're being physically abused, I encourage you right away to seek professional help. You do not deserve anyone to put their hands on you, anyone to mistreat you. And if it's sexual abuse, you don't deserve that for never. So please tell and let someone know. Then thirdly is try to get into counseling, because now you're dealing with a situation where it became learned, or you were adapted to it, so you had to adjust. So now you decided to have these defense mechanism of being invisible. The defense mechanism was saying everything is nonchalant or in denial. There's so many defense mechanisms we have, but in counseling, that person could help you to start talking about what is going on in your life, talking about the trauma that you have experienced, talking about the dysfunction that you have lived through and that you're experiencing now, so you can come up with different ways of coping, come up with different ways to relating and connecting with others, come up with different ways of loving and knowing and redefining what that is. So there's, also reaching out to your pastor, or, through prayer and developing other coping mechanisms. People write, journal, people just do all sorts of things that's positive, but finding adaptive ways of dealing with what the dysfunction is and how it affected you.
So, Marcella, how would they be able to contact you if they needed some assistance?
the best way is to go to my website, www.therapybyrogers. It has all of my contact information on there. You can also put your request in writing. It'll submit to me, and I can respond in that way. That's the best way to reach me.
Okay, then. You have been so informative tonight, and we thank you for that as far as the professional level. But now we want to get to know Miss Marcella Rogers during our McCain Express. Do you mind us asking you some questions to break the ice here?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, then.
I'm a little nervous.
Like, yeah,
Right.
I'm nervous.
I was okay with what I knew, but I don't know about this.
These are fun-filled questions, okay? And we're going to roll it out with the first one. If you had to choose between a Jaguar and a Benz, which one would you pick?
Ha, ha, ha. That's a good one. I have had, well, I'm going to have to go with my baby, the Jag. A Jag.
Okay, now. Were you a teacher's pet or a class clown?
Teacher's pet.
If you could live on the East Coast or the West Coast, which one would you choose?
West Coast.
You're craving fast food burgers, White Castles or Culver's? She's thinking too hard.
You said what? Wait, you said Culver's, White Castles, and what was the other one?
It's just White Castles or Culver's.
Oh, I guess White Castles.
It's Friday night. Are you painting the town or watching your favorite show?
I'm older now, so watching my favorite show.
So which one would you choose, Janet Jackson or Beyonce?
Janet Jackson.
All right. Chicago deep dish pizza or home run in?
Oh, deep dish all day long.
Okay. Now it says here I don't know if you like sports or not, but are you excited more about free tickets for the Super Bowl or World Series?
Oh, I will have to go to the Super Bowl. That's one of my my to-do list.
All right. Would you rather vacation in Hawaii or Aruba?
Hawaii.
You have to choose one meat to eat for the rest of your life. Would it be steak or chicken?
I'm going to have to say chicken.
Chicken.
What are your favorite TV shows, Scandal or The Atlanta Housewives?
Neither.
Ah, okay,
Scandal.
then. You the first.
That's a scandal.
Okay, that's a scandal. A milestone birthday. Is there a big party with all your friends, or did you plan every detail?
Just go out with, I'm not a planner like that, so it had to be the first one, just going out, paint the town, do whatever.
Okay. You're a world-famous musician, a drum or a piano?
A piano.
She's so refined. You get to be a superhero. Is a Catwoman or Supergirl?
Well, since I watched Supergirl, I'm going to have to say Supergirl.
Okay, one of your favorite movies. Let's hope she picked one of these. What Love Got to Do with It or Waiting to Exhale?
What love got to do with it? Love that one.
Hey, Marcella, thank you very much for calling us. You know we're going to have you again. Give them that information where they can contact you again before we have you go off the air.
Okay, thank you again for having me. You can reach me at www.therapybyrogers.com.
All right, and you know you'll be back because you're one of our regular counselors that we love, and you get great information. So we really appreciate you helping with dysfunctional families and that silent person. Thank you very much for calling into the Let's Stay Together show.
Thank you,
All
Marcella.
right, thank you for having me. All right, take care.
As
Bye-bye.
always, she is always informative and always has a lot of detailed information for that. So, hey, we're about to get ready to go to commercial breaks. Baby, what we got going?
We have POV, Point of View, by Donna Terrell coming up.
Hey, this is Rick McCain with my baby, my girl, my boo, Brenda McCain. We'll be right back after this commercial break.